We are set.
Got me? Good morning. Thanks for having me, everybody. I thought I was going to have a lectern to hide behind, so forgive the notebook as I refer to my notes here as I speak to you. As Gene said, I run flyovergeeks.com. I got the name because when I lived in San Francisco, I worked for some startups, and they referred to Chicago as flyover country. If you're not in Silicon Valley, you're not in New York, you don't exist. I disagree. I came back. I also write a weekly column for Crane's Chicago Business online. And things have been going very well. We've gotten a lot of attention. And Gene asked me to talk today about things that are coming up for 2011. And I always like to start with a little story, a little anecdote that I think everybody can relate to. In addition to my professional career, I was in the Army when I was younger, and I went to airborne school. And airborne school is where they teach you how to jump out of a plane with a parachute, paratrooper. And it was a lot of fun. You do 5 jumps at the end of all your training, and it's very exciting. But the way it works, if you've ever seen a war movie, you see the big airplane with the propellers and the doors open on the side and all the parachutes come out the side, that's a C-130. It's a cargo plane. It's very big, and inside you have 4 rows of people sitting knee to knee facing each other. And as you're getting ready to jump, they let you know when you're getting close to the drop zone. Now it's important when you're jumping that everybody file out of the plane and jump out that door, because if you take too long when you're over a big open field, you might be okay, but about 5 minutes later, when the person at the end finally gets out the door, they're landing in a lake or a forest because you decided to hesitate in the door. And so they told us, do not hesitate in the door. If you do, you will be sorry. That's what we were told over and over. So we're in the C-130 and we're blasting out over the drop zone, and the Sergeant Airborne, who wears a black hat, tells you the outboard personnel to stand up, and everybody on the outside part of the plane stands up. And then he tells the inboard personnel to stand up. And then they give you the 1-minute announcement, and everybody turns around and yells, 1 minute! It's all very exciting. You're all very pumped. You're all ready to go. And then they open up the door. On our 3rd jump, now mind you, this was our 3rd, it was male and female. It's a airborne is unisex, men and women can go. But there was one woman, she was a hard charger, young, she was in college like me, really had her stuff together. But for some reason, she stopped in the door on our 3rd jump. She'd already done 2 perfectly. So she got up to the door, and you're on a ripcord, and she stopped. And you know, I was near the back, so I looked over to the side of the plane, and went, oh, this is not going to be well. And so she's standing there, and the Sergeant Airborne's going, jump, jump, cadet, jump, because we were in college, and she didn't do it, so then you saw him take his foot right in the back and just shoved her out the door, and then you heard thump off the side of the plane. And she ended up being okay, and what had happened was, when she got to the bottom, I said, what the heck happened to you? What did you do? Why'd you stop in the door? They had some bleachers set up near the drop zone. It's a big, long, couple football fields long. But she said she knew her mom had shown up that day, and for some reason she got in the door and she thought about her mom down there in the bleachers somewhere watching her, like she could pick out 1 parachute among 300 or 400. And she don't know why, she froze. So she thumped off the plane, she graduated, everything went well. But the lesson from that is fail fast and then move forward. And she graduated and everything worked out. And so when I talk about 2011 and what's going to be happening, you're going to see a lot of people, because of the economy that we're in, and I was talking with my table mates, seat mates over here, loyalty is dead. Working for a company for 20, 30 years doesn't exist anymore. We're moving past the Industrial Revolution. We're in the information age. And so you're going to see a lot of people starting businesses, failing fast, figuring out what they're doing wrong, pivoting, and then moving on. And the first one that comes to mind is the social net. The social net has not been defined. You know, we have Facebook, and everybody says, you know, social media has been solved. Now, I don't know how involved everybody is with technology, but if we go back to the 90s, there's an excellent series on PBS called Triumph of the Nerds. And they interviewed Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, and Microsoft was king of the world at the time. They had enterprise software, Windows was everywhere, and Bill Gates said to the journalist interviewing him, he said, every night I go to bed and I worry that there's going to be somebody in a garage somewhere that's going to overtake Microsoft. 4 years later, Google came on the scene, and at the time, search had been solved. Alta Vista was the #1 search engine being used. If anybody even remembers Alta Vista, I think it's still up somewhere, but it's not what Google became. And Google got turned down by investors in Sand Hill Row in Silicon Valley. So Bill Gates was right. because not only did Google become a search engine, it moved into a lot of other areas. Email, it replaced Outlook. You can take Gmail and you can make it for your business, you can make it for your personal. You can have 10 different email addresses all feeding into Gmail. Google Documents is kind of replacing Word. Microsoft has a big problem and they know it and they're trying to change, but they always seem to be late to the party now. They're late to the party with the Windows Phone, they're late to the party catching up with Google, and so that has been the dynamic that Bill Gates worried about. Now you can blame that on Steve Ballmer because Bill Gates is semi-retired, but that's a whole nother conversation. So when I say the social net has not been defined, does anybody remember MySpace? Or going back even further, Friendster. Friendster was a big hit, and then we had MySpace, and then we had Facebook. And when I lived in San Francisco, I remember I was on Facebook in the dark, ancient days of 2007, and nobody I knew in the Midwest was using it, but everybody on the West Coast was. Now everybody uses Facebook for business. They use it for their personal contacts, but the same rule applies. Just because Facebook is huge now, that does not mean that it cannot be knocked down a peg, and it doesn't mean that people are working on doing it. Diaspora is the name of an open source social networking platform because there's a lot of concerns about privacy right now. Chicago's own Bobby Rush is #2 in the country on privacy concerns in Washington. And these kids went on a site called Kickstarter, and they were going to raise 10 grand when they graduated college to try and create their open source social networking platform. Within 24 hours, they raised $100,000 because people were so excited about it, and now they're a fully operating company. So the social net is going to change. I'm not saying anybody's going to take Facebook and make it irrelevant, but Facebook has become what Microsoft was in the mid-90s, what Alta Vista was in 2000, what Yahoo's a sinking ship. We probably don't want to go there. But you get the idea. Yahoo was huge, and now executives can't quit there fast enough. So in no way has Facebook redefined anything. And when I say the social net, it's more than that. And that brings me to the whole fail faster and move forward. When I wrote my top 30 in tech for Chicago 2010, I published it on my site in Cranes. Very obviously you had companies like Groupon, Grubhub, which just raised $11 million. I put Grubhub as my #3 out of 30. #2 was Groupon, but I saved the #1 slot for a startup because I thought they've already made their money. Groupon has been all over the news. 2 years ago, it was a site built on WordPress. And for those that don't know, WordPress, you can build a blog on it. I built my site on it. You spend about $30 to buy a theme and you modify it. Andrew Mason had built Groupon on WordPress and nobody cared about it. The only reason the media cares now is because Google came knocking with $6 billion and they're making money hand over fist. In 2 years, this has happened. 2 years. So when I say fail fast, does anyone know what Andrew Mason did before Groupon? SharePoint? Yeah. So I know a lot of University of Chicago Booth graduate students working on their MBA, and they had a joke that was going around the graduate school at Booth. Andrew Mason started a site called SharePoint, and they all said, "What's the point of SharePoint?" And they laughed, and it was a failure. But then he started Groupon, and 2 years later, he's having the last laugh. So when he announced GrewSpawn, anybody hear about that? Andrew Mason announced GrewSpawn, and basically what it is if you go on a date and you use a Groupon on your first date, and you end up marrying that person and having a baby, Groupon will pay you $60,000 for your kid's college education. So that was a big deal. It was also a lie and a joke that he put out there just to see if he could play the media, and everybody bit it, hook, line, and sinker. So fail fast means you can put an idea out there and you can innovate, pivot where a large company isn't going to be able to do that. There's other businesses that can be tested and even modified where they're going along. Chicago has a company called the App House. There's a lot of people working on apps right now, but the App House has really impressed me because they're different. Normally with a company, you raise a lot of money, you're going to make widgets, and you need $1 million to buy the factory, produce the widgets, hire the sales force, and put the widget out there. The App House has come up with a microfinancing plan for all their products. So what they do is someone comes in with an app idea. They know that they want to build it. They don't know how to market it. They don't know how to program it. And the App House will then find funding for that individual application. Applications can be made for nothing. It's $25,000. It's very cheap to do. But what's nice about their business model is they've had a few duds, but they can write that off because it's not part of their overall plan. Each individual application has its own funding source. They had one that went big and made it into the top 200 iPad applications. So you're going to see a lot of companies coming up with unique ways of funding their new ventures without going the old traditional route, I need to raise $1 million. And I'm already using up all my time. Another prediction is the iPhone will sell a jillion new units because it's on Verizon. Real brave, right? But the problem is, and what you're going to see is that net neutrality is falling apart. The government, in its infinite wisdom, passed net neutrality. It says you can go anywhere you want on the internet and pay the same rate that you're paying AT&T for your internet access. But with mobile phones, they're going to allow them to charge you more to watch a video or listen to music or do different things. And there's going to be a lot of different fees involved, and you're going to see a lot of people revolt over this. I can't imagine it's tenable. I can't imagine people will pay for it. But my phone bill is a lot bigger than it was for mobile, 5-6 years ago too, as we pay for more services. So that'll be interesting to see. The other big one I want to get out before I run out of time is the Amazon tax. For those that haven't heard of it, Illinois is just the governor needs to sign off on it. People are fighting it furiously right now. There are people that do affiliate sales for their business. There's a guy I know that has an application. It's all about books. You can buy books through his application from Amazon, and then he earns a small percentage of the fees that somebody paid to buy their books. It works out great. Amazon and Netflix, do this all over the place. People make money. Amazon makes money. Illinois has said, Amazon.com, because it's an Illinois business, you need to collect sales tax for us and pay Illinois. And so all the big companies, Amazon, Netflix, and anyone else that does affiliate marketing has said, no, we're not going to do that. And in fact, everyone we're doing business with in Illinois can go pound sand. We're just not going to deal with them. So everybody in Illinois that is a small business that was making money from Amazon, Netflix, and other affiliate deals is going to be cut out because they don't need it. One state out of 50 has said that they have to do this. None of them are going to do it. So hopefully the governor does not sign off on this. What we really need, and I can get into this, is people influencing their legislators and teaching them how the online world really works. And then the last one is video. TV is dead. For those that don't know, The Young Turks is an online TV show. Started for about $250,000. Gets more views than cable news. And they're making, I think they just reached $1 million a year. Ashton Kutcher has said if he went back and was going to do the TV show Punk'd, he would go straight to online now. So online video is going to be gigantic in 2011. But I think
You've got time for
cut me off.
questions.
All right. Okay. So that I had a few more, but I tend to get long-winded. I apologize. Thank you.
Any questions?
All right.
What else did you have?
Thank you very much.
What else did you have?
Cloud and software as a service being developed on the cloud. Enterprise software is kind of going the way of the dinosaur too. Companies that are in the $10 million to $100 million space that couldn't afford to do an e-commerce platform. EDL Consulting is here in Chicago. They're the #1 cloud developer in the nation right now. Force.com has recognized them repeatedly out in Silicon Valley, and they invite them to Dreamforce every year.
How's the job? You probably know this better than most. The job market in technology in the city.
Developers are in extremely high demand. There's not enough of them to go around. They're desperate for developers right now. If you know somebody that's a developer, they could have 10 job offers tomorrow. I know a lot of companies are hiring programmers. I wish I was a programmer. There's a lot of money to be made.